Okay, we are live streaming. I'm going to call the meeting to order. At this time, I'd like to remind Council and municipal staff that this meeting is being live streamed to the public. All Council meetings are also recorded. Recordings will be available to the public on the Township's YouTube account. This meeting is held electronically under Bylaw 2020-70 to amend Procedural Bylaw 2018-117 pursuant to Section 238 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended. And now I'd like to give the First Nations land acknowledgement. As we gather today, I'd like to acknowledge on behalf of Council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history. And we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. With that, we'll move to the adoption of the agenda. And there are some amendments to the agenda, Council. First off, item number 2 in camera, those minutes are being removed. They are not fully complete, so staff would like to withdraw them. Under 5.1 delegations, we have Doug Thackeray from Barry Bryan Associates regarding the bid summary for the Paul J. Akabuski Community Center rink slab replacement. Under 7.3 unfinished business, we have the Recreation and Community Development Coordinator giving us a verbal update regarding school engagement with recycling. And with that, the recommendation is that the Council and Committee meeting agenda for Tuesday, April 5th, 2022 be approved as amended. Could I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Wilmer, seconded by Councillor Schulist. All those in favor? And okay, I guess all those in favor? And that's carried. And Councillor Poplinski, could you please tilt your screen because I can't see your hand. I'm sorry. There we go. I honestly couldn't see if you were voting, so that will help. All right, any disclosures of pecuniary interest this morning? Okay, I'm seeing none. Then we'll move directly to our delegation, which, as I said, is oh, there he is. Doug is here. Doug Thackeray from Barry Bryant Associates regarding the bid summary for the Paul J. Akabuski Community Center rink slab replacement. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning. How are you doing?
We're good. Please take it away.
Yeah, so we got our bids in for the rink. They did come in higher than we originally expected, but it's become more consistent this year with other rink slab replacements across Ontario that we've come in. We had one come in a little over 1.5 for another township. I think the increase in this one just has to do with concrete supply beyond that. But yeah, rebar is a lot more right now. And our refrigerant piping is definitely a lot more compared to previous years just due to supply chains.
Okay.
I'm not sure if there's anything further you'd like me to comment on or.
Okay, what I'll do is I'll just maybe ask, is our operations? Yes, there he is. Mr. Kuchkowski, did you want to add anything to that?
Good morning, all. No, I believe this is the new reality. I noticed that with pricing and you can't get anything now. And I believe that this will be the future. So I don't have nothing to add other than we streamlined as best as we could. We didn't put any fluff in, just the bare necessities of what's required for that rink. And it's coming substantially higher than what we expected. And I don't think it'll, if I crystal ball this, I don't think it'll get any better next year or the year after. It'll stay stagnant. That's all.
Okay, thank you. So we pretty much, it's felt that this is where the new reality is in terms of what this is going to cost. Any
Correct.
questions from council for Mr. Thackeray or Mr. Kuchkowski? at this point. I do believe you all received the bid summary via email, so you have that to look at. Is there any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, this is our opportunity. We will be voting on a recommendation a little bit later in this council meeting in regards to moving forward with this project. Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Thackeray. Oh, sorry, Sue. Yes, I missed you there.
That's okay. I just wanted to add just more for the minutes because council was just provided this yesterday, and it's not, we can attach it as an addendum to the agenda. But I wanted to note that when we were speaking with Doug and Doug, it was also mentioned that yes, even though we received 2 bids, so Freecon was at the 1,639,000 and Matrix Facility Management was at 2,047,000. It was emphasized that at the time prior to the mandatory pre-bid meeting, the BBA did directly reach out to 4 other qualified general contractors who are capable of completing this project, each of whom declined bidding the project as a result of current workload, lack of staff to supervise the project, concerns with meeting the schedule due to supply chain issues. So I just felt it was important to add that to the minutes.
Okay, thank you, Sue. And I think what we're seeing here is that a lot of arenas are of a similar age. So there is a significant amount of work being done across the province to renovate and rejuvenate arenas. And not only do we have the supply chain issues of COVID, but we also have the fact that this is something that is happening in many communities. So that we are in competition to ensure that our project gets done and needs to be done in a timely manner. So we do have a timeline on this, which would have been one of the key restrictions in terms of others bidding. They would have had to meet the timeline so that we can ensure as a council that our community will have the arena available to them starting in the fall of this year. So. Okay, if there's nothing further on that, then I'm going to thank Mr. Thackeray for dropping by and just bringing the bid summary to our attention. And I think that's all we need to do in terms of delegations. So at this point, I guess we are headed into our standing committees. All recommendations from the standing committees are recommendations to council and are pending the approval of council at a subsequent meeting. And with that, I will turn it over to Chair Bromwich to bring us through operations, roads, and waste management.
Thank you, Mayor Love. And through you, welcome, Mike, Hillary. First report we have is 7.11, 2021 Public Works Year-End Report. And I'll ask Sue if at the very end of that she could read our recommendations for both these issues, if you wouldn't mind. I'll let you take this away, Mike. Just a statement here. It was a good year. You've done a wonderful job here, and I think you went way above your what you were asked to do here. From what I read of this report, there was much more done than what you'd planned on doing. And 2021, what you've done on the roads might be the highlight of our council term for the last 4 years. So I'd leave it to you to kind of give us a general overview of your report, if you wouldn't mind, Mike.
Perfect. Thanks, Carl, and good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I got the 2021 report for all of our projects for last summer, and yeah, it was a very busy summer, which is a good thing. Got a lot accomplished, a lot of roads fixed up, paved, and a lot of culverts changed. I don't know if you want me to go through line by line, Carl, or just
I think everybody
got the report. You can just take questions, maybe.
Yeah, maybe if anybody's got an issue with any item on this, we've had a look at it. And as I say, if there's any questions on any particular item, I'd ask council right now for any questions, if you have any. If not, we can just proceed. I don't personally. I see none. So we'll proceed to item 7.12. And this is Lakewood Subdivision Development, Skeet Road, Lakewoods Drive. This is the crowning glory of 2021 and the last 4 years. We've done really good work on this. I'll leave it to you. I don't want to take away your thunder here, Mike. Thank you.
Sure, I'll pass the Lakewoods one on to Hillary if you want to take this one.
Alrighty,
I think if you got the handle on it.
there you go, Hillary. You can carry the throne here.
It's basically self-explanatory. We were in the end of 2021. We got a motion on the table to accept the road as a maintenance standalone item, and we're just following up on, I believe, further in the agenda. There's a bylaw for minimum maintenance standards, and we've added Lakewood finally, and the contractor has did his final analysis, and he has stated that it's to be assumes, and we have already, basically, we're just ratifying it through bylaw today. And the treasurer has put in her columns at the end on the expenditures, and Sue has more to add on this, I believe, on how we got here, and it's a good news story. That's all I have to say. This is a really good thing on the road. After the winter wear, I notice there's no frost leaves or nothing. I think it performed marvelously. So well done. I think it's a good thing what we did here. So take it away, Sue.
Thank you, Sue. To you, Sue.
I just thought I'd give just a quick background. So the report as presented by the engineer identified a shortfall of approximately 170,737.06. The municipal engineer confirmation of this amount affirms that there have been no taxpayer dollars expended towards this development. The numbers that you see in his report were compiled with many shared reports between the treasurer and WSP. I want to remind council that developers are responsible for the costs of their projects, including all costs associated with the utilities, the road, the drainage, up and until the road assumption by the municipality. There had been 2 previous drawdowns from the guarantee to the developer between 2016 and 18 for the purpose of completing the road, leaving the performance guarantee at a shortfall to have enough to complete the road. In 2018, the plan of subdivision was found to be in default of sections 42 and 63 for incomplete or faulty work to Skeed Road and Lakewoods Drive. And the property owners were at jeopardy of remaining on a private road if the road could not be brought to assumption standard with the remaining performance guarantee. In 2020, the township served notice and drew down on the guarantee to fulfill the defaults, and that included the installation of a hydrant, reconciling the legal and consulting fees. And due to the default, the municipality contracted out services for snow plowing and sanding services for the winter of 2020 and 2021. And tender for revised scope of the road was tendered for the project. That determined there were insufficient funds to proceed to paving, and the alternative would have been to gravel with remaining funds, and the road would remain private. Council worked diligently with staff and engineers to find solutions. In June of 2021, council was unanimous in a 1-page resolution that the municipality would proceed with paving, but was not prepared to expend any public funds for a private development, and was acting in good faith and in the best interest of the taxpayer and the municipality. Options available to ensure no public funds were used included consideration of levying the overruns to the property owners themselves that reside on that road, and or securing guarantees from future development. Prior to accepting the tender, a developer for phase 2 of Lakewoods provided performance guarantee in the amount of $200,000 in trust to the municipality. The developer has been notified that following the assumption of the road bylaw, the road maintenance bylaw passing today, which assumes this road, and the final costing, which is before council now, an approval of the municipal engineer, which has been received, a refund of $29,262.91 for the difference of those funds will be sent to the developer for the security held by the municipality for the completion of the Skeed and Lakewood Road.
Thank you very much, Sue. Any further discussion on this? I'll just, if not, I'll just go to you, Mark Wilmer, Councillor Wilmer, I mean.
Yeah, I just thank you, Chair Bromwich. Just wanted to say congratulations to everyone on this one. This to me was a great achievement, and I think one that was done under difficult circumstances. We did have the monetary shortfall, and through a little bit of creativity and a lot of hard staff work, the solution was found. And I think it's a wonderful solution that will serve the community and township well for many, many years to come. So I just, again, congratulations, everyone. Well done.
Thank you. And to you, Mayor Love.
I just wanted to echo what Councillor Wilmer has just said. Absolutely, this was a challenging project, start to finish, over a very extended period of time. So unfortunately, the original costing of the road back when that was done was nowhere near what the actual price of producing the road was once it was actually completed. So having developed the new developer for this particular development come forward and put up a deposit for the additional funds that were needed was very important key part of this. So, and we look forward very much to working with that developer to see more of the phases of the Lakewoods plan developed and coming online with lots for sale and people able to move into Madawaska Valley in the very near future. So this has been a very long and challenging road, but it is a road now, and we're very happy to see that. And very pleased to be moving forward with the new developer to continue to grow Madawaska Valley and have this project succeed. So thank you very much to staff. Boy, without our staff working very hard behind the scenes to come up with a way to do this so that the taxpayer did not put any money into this road, it was totally paid for by the developers. That was a huge achievement. And I want to thank Hillary and Mike and Sue and WSP, our engineers, because they all worked together and pulled together and got this done. And there was a time when it looked iffy, but you guys got it done, and thank you so much. Really appreciate the hard work.
I'd also like to ask, I'll state that the contractor that did the road did a wonderful job. It's a dream. I recommend anybody that wants to go for a nice drive after the mud's gone, take a nice run up that road to the very end and have a look at what the division looks like. It's wonderful. I think those last two, the only two recommendations here, Sue, are just to receive his information. So I don't think we have to vote on anything.
That's correct.
Thank you. I'll move along here to, was it 7.13, Mayor Love, for Anna to report on the school engagement on recycling? Or do we go to correspondence?
We have correspondence and then unfinished business, which is
Okay,
where
I'll
Hannah
move
will
along.
report.
Yeah, 7.2.1, letter from County of Renfrew, closure for the Advanced Key Swamp Culvert. And this is a request from Renfrew County. Maybe Hillary, you could mention just enlighten us on this one if you wouldn't mind.
Through you, Chair Bromwich. So the culvert, I guess just a little bit of background. It's the culvert between the municipal office and the high school in that large swamp. It's a big box culvert and it has met its match. Very serious. And there's a water main above it, of course. So the infrastructure there is very important to this township. And they've been in touch with me, and their only way out of this is to detour through Stafford onto Lakeshore. They'll have to fix up the intersection, and it's scheduled for June. And I mentioned my concerns because, you know, with kids, and it can be mitigated through signage and the swim program, but the swim program starts in, I believe, in July. So that'll help a little bit. And we're going to work with the county on this and remove all parking and possibly get them to park beside the sewage plant at the playground to alleviate any cars along this corridor. Very important. And we need this, how to mitigate it as least as harmful as possible to the township. They are gonna do some in segments. It means take out half the road, which will still allow traffic to go through, but there's a closure for at least a minimum of 4 weeks, it says in the letter. Up to 4 weeks requiring full closure, and up to 3 weeks with alternating lanes of traffic. So they've contacted Aqua, and they have a way to suspend or divert the water main. So farmer request to present to council on this for consideration of any input.
This will probably come back to council eventually when the dates are confirmed, I guess, Hillary, is that the idea? Because we're gonna need a recommendation for the street closures.
Well, it's a goal. They're shooting for June, July. And they're trying to. What are they saying here? September. With the fish spawning and habitat, they're looking at that. So, yeah. So you want to try it in June.
Okay,
And the school is out too. They have
Okay.
to kind of time it.
to you, Mayor Love.
Thank you, Chair. Hillary, Lakeshore Drive and Stafford Street, they weren't designed to handle heavy highway traffic. Will the county be responsible for any damages caused by the additional heavy traffic? It hasn't been that long since we just redid those roads.
Yeah.
I have a
any,
concern.
yeah. So any repairs to that, we'll have to substantiate that with them. They would be required to repair any damages to the road. It is, there is HL4 there now. It's hot mix, 50 millimeter, same as on the highways, more or less. I don't know if the base, I don't have many concerns, but we will have to state to the county that any repairs from any infrastructure damage, they'd have to repair it.
Okay, thank you. And Stafford Street, is it hot mix as well?
Correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
To you, Councillor Wilmer.
Just a question to Hillary concerning the intersection at Stafford and Lakeshore. Other than the four-way stop, I assume they'll be doing some widening to that intersection. What is the extent of changes they're going to have to make there, and will they be permanent?
No, they would never be permanent. They're gonna have to extend the culvert at, I don't know if there's a cross culvert at Stafford and Lakeshore. There's one towards the lake. They'll have to extend culverts. I don't know if at the end of the intersection at Stafford, I don't think there's a culvert. And like, no, but into the lake. So they might have to do some extension of a culvert. All that is a simple band, and they extend it and put in some fill to widen that. You know, because there's going to be, this is real. There's going to be B trains. I call B trains the longer than, you know, but B trains tend to go around corners easier than the normal 45 footers. So they do have to, and the corner, so near the tennis court, that's why we're going to request that all traffic, no parking zone along that for any cars, and get them all in beside the sewage plant. There's a good parking spot there, you know, so that's our only hope. So I think it should work. There is no choice, I believe, in the matter, but
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
So do we just receive this as information at this point then, Hillary, or?
Correct. I don't know. What do we put a? Sue might advise us here. She's
Yeah, do we have a
give us
recommendation?
information or?
Through the
You-
chair, there's no recommendation, but we should be getting back to the county with the expectation that you've just, and the concerns that you've just highlighted, and put that in writing back to the county and firm up the timelines and find out if we need to do that, because it's not really a street closure, but it's changing of the level of service there. So find out what they need from us as it pertains to any bylaw changes if needed.
Okay. To you, Amanda, and I'll get to you, Councillor Poplinski, in a minute. Thank you.
Through you, Chair. Hillary or Mike, is it a possibility to request that they reroute all large tractor trailers through the Old Barry's Bay Road rather than having them come into town or through that highway so that they miss the Lakeshore Drive and use at least Old Barry's Bay Road to get to the other highways? Is that a possibility or not?
I don't know how you do that technically. Well, I find truckers are very receptive. I think one detour is because Highway 62, if somebody has to get on this or coming from here, possibly you might be able to do a capture, but I don't know how you portray that out to a trucker. You might be able to put a sign at the three-way stop if they're coming down 60 and say detour possibility, Old Barry's Bay Road. I can work with the county on that, even if we reduce 25% somehow. But there's a good thought. There might be a way to do that a little bit, even if it helps somewhat.
To you, Councillor Poplinski.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chair. My question actually to Hillary. Hillary, your suggestion about doing the new concrete box starting in June, I think is a very good idea. If that can be done before you actually have to have more disruption in the road itself, is that possible to do that construction and still allow the traffic to move on John Street?
That's what they're planning. They originally, well, they told me now they're trying to get it started in June. But of course,
my other point is that you mentioned about they only allow or the fisheries window, is July the 15th to September the 30th. It's right during our really busy time. Is there a way, because of the various problems that it's going to cause for the business people and everything else and people traveling through the area, is there a way that we could exercise some incentive for them to approve it on an earlier basis?
Yes, if they realign, they're going to move the existing one over so they don't have to worry about oceans and fisheries. I think that's the plan here. So they don't have to disrupt that fisheries or whatever goes through that culvert.
Okay. Yeah, I think there's still some questions and some issues here to work on. But if it's something that needs to be done, then it needs to be done. But we want to have as least amount of disruption as possible.
I agree.
Thank you. To you, Mayor Love.
Thank you.
And I'll get to you in a minute, Sue.
Okay, so this is a county project on a county road. The culvert is the county's culvert. I think the county is contacting the municipality because of the obvious fact that being as how deep they have to dig to get to this box culvert, it's going to be very difficult to keep any part of that road open all the time. So we have to recognize as a council, this work needs to be done. The culvert is showing obviously the signs of needing to be replaced, and the county is taking the appropriate steps, working with engineers, doing all the right things. The challenge is literally our geography and the fact that there isn't an easy alternative road that can be used to get around this particular piece of geography that runs through the town of Barry's Bay, or the village of Barry's Bay. So as long as we are letting the county know that we do not as a council want to be stuck paying for any damage that occurs to our roads because of this traffic that will be rerouted, and that we also want them to reassure us that they're going to be taking steps to ensure that the public is safe when they're at the park, that children playing, that crossing from the tennis courts to the park is going to be able to happen without it being a safety issue. That's the other factor in this that we haven't discussed, but I'd like to know what the county's plan is in terms of addressing the fact that they're about to take highway traffic and put it through an area that we slow traffic down in significantly because it's basically running through a park. So they do need to have given some serious thought to what that's going to mean when they reroute this traffic to ensure that the public can remain safe but still enjoy the amenities that are on offer. So I think that would be the other component, that it would be nice if they would get back to staff with what their plan is to ensure that the public will remain safe. And Hillary, you're certainly doing everything you can to consider how we can make this a safer situation by moving parking, by, you know, whatever, anything we can do. But this does have to get done, or we're going to have a serious problem cutting off a good portion of our community and rerouting it this way anyways. So just everyone recognize this is a county project, and so there's no expense to Madawaska Valley for this replacement, and there should be no expense to Madawaska Valley for the process of replacement and anything that falls out from that. Thank you.
And to you, Sue, and then I'll get to you, Councilwoman, in a minute. Thank you.
Just wanted to note, in case some of council members don't get their chats, the deputy clerk, as you know, posts on 511 as well, as does Mike and Hillary when we have any construction projects or any closures. So as this is a county project, I would expect the construction would be posted on 511, and we can ask that both of those options as it pertains to rerouting traffic possibly be listed and show, you know, if you're a large truck, you won't have to do maybe the three-way stop if you can go around by Old Barry's Bay Road.
To you, Councillor Woolmer.
Yeah, just following up on what Mayor Love said, I think the other thing we need to remind the county is that this council last year declared Lakeshore Drive in that area a community safety zone. So that's another consideration along there. I don't know that we have all our signage up yet, but I believe it reduced the speed limit down to 40 kilometers. And there are considerations like that because this is a very busy space in the summer between the park, the tennis courts, and the beach. So I think that's something they should be aware of. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure there might be safety people with signs and that if there's crossing the road with traffic. I believe probably Renfrew County would be supplying people with signs and that for in case there's a stoppage. I don't know, Hillary. All these issues should maybe be addressed to Renfrew County. If I could ask staff to maybe draft up a letter to Renfrew County with our concerns on it, and to let them know that they are going to be working within a safety zone with high traffic, pedestrian traffic. So anything they can do to make it safe would be really appreciated by us. So can I leave that with you, Sue?
Yes, we'll have the operations manager draft a letter, and I have summarized, and we'll give him a copy of the minutes as to what council wants included in that letter.
Thank you very, very much. Any further comments on this? I think we've covered the gamut here. I'd like to go with 7.3, please, with Hannah. You have a little report for us about the school and the recycling program, maybe they're getting involved in. I'll leave it to you to enlighten us.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, developed in response to an action item from June 2021 that the treasurer had, and then she and I chatted yesterday and was passed on to me. We're looking for ways to involve schools in education on recycling and waste management. So this is time sensitive, which is why it was a bit of a last minute addition. But we have developed a program, which is just an Earth Month poster contest. It'll be open to classrooms in our 3 elementary schools, as well as the Kids Castle Daycare in Barry's Bay. We will pick a winner from each school, and then they will each winner will receive a monetary prize to be able to put forward towards educational programming on the environment, conservation, waste management, however the teacher or school sees fit. So.
Well, that's fantastic. Just on a side note, I did back in the 80s when the recycling program came alive in the valley here. I did a kind of a school presentation to all the schools with a worm factory.
That's
Compost.
something that, yeah, that if you win, that's something that the teachers could purchase if they wanted.
It
We
was-
do
it was
also
un-
have, oh, sorry.
Sorry, no, it was really well received. And I went to all the schools in Renfrew County with this worm factory. And I eventually gave it to St. Mary's School up here in Wilno to look after. And they went on holidays and forgot to feed the worms. And then September, when they come back, all there was compost. There was not a living thing in it.
Part of the learning
So,
experience, I guess.
If anybody's got a worm factory,
I do want to note we do
Anyway,
have an
thank you very
in-class
much.
learning. Sorry, we do have an in-class learning component that we're really interested in doing, just a presentation for kids on where your waste goes. That'll be specific to the waste sites here in Madawaska Valley. I have reached out to a local school just to get a feel for what the rules are. I'm not sure if they're allowing people in to do presentations, but if they are, then that's something that we'll definitely be looking into doing this month or next month as well.
well, thank you, Hannah. Is there any questions about what Hannah was just presenting? I think it's a great initiative, and the kids do receive this information really well. They're really interested in it, so it's a good program. Thank you very much, Hannah. Appreciate that. I believe that's the end of mine. I would pass this back over to Mayor Love then.
Okay,
think
thank
I'm
you. Yep. Thank you, Chair Bromwich. We'll move on to operations, water, wastewater, and facilities, and I'm turning it over to Chair Schulist.
All right, Madam Chair, Mayor Love, Your Worship. Okay, under 8.11, we have a Barry's Bay wastewater system annual report, and I'm hoping Ashley is here. Yes, he is. I see Ashley. And Ashley, maybe if you want to speak on it, or does Kaylee want to speak on this report?
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Chair. All these reports are all Kaylee's baby, so we're going to let her take it from here.
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Ashley. Before I begin reviewing this report, I'd like to ask if all questions can please be left until the end of me reviewing it. At that time, I will answer anything that does pose a question. In reviewing this report, everything is tabulated based on the year. This report is sent to meet conditions of the ECA, and then it is sent off to you guys as the owner and the ministry. It features a lot of the same information that is in our quarterly reports, and those of course are more of an operational based report, and this is a compliance based report that has to be sent off. So starting off, it reviews the compliance events of the year, including 4 non-compliance issues and 1 community complaint. We didn't receive any inspections this year, either by Fisheries, Environment Canada, or the ministry. The Ministry of Labor wasn't here as well. I go in to describe the process, that it's a class 3 facility. It uses ISAM and SBR technology, what chemicals are used, and of course that the sludge is digested and stored on site. I go in to talk about the flows. Last year we saw 32% of the rated capacity met in the raw flows, so we're well under what the facility is capable of, which is great. You can see a comparison of the annual effluent, and it's been pretty consistent since 2018. So again, that's great to see as well. We didn't receive any septage last year. I went and tabulated the monthly influent concentrations for parameters that are required to be tested by the ECA. So you can see spikes later on in the year. Moving into the effluent quality and insurance control measures, this just goes to speak about us following the F10 requirements of the ministry for sampling and analyzing wastewater in a municipal setting. We use SGS Lakefield as a Canadian accredited laboratory. We also test our pH and temperature in the field to monitor for ionized ammonia. Getting into effluent quality, I've made a brief summary of the objective exceedances that we've seen throughout the year that are tabulated below. Of course, CBOD didn't see anything, neither did E. coli. We had a single sample of pH that exceeded the objective that was reported in January, and the remaining suspended solids total phosphorus and total ammonia nitrogen are recorded below in the effluent monitoring section and the operating issues section. So scrolling down to that, you can see what adjustments were made to the treatment facility and to combat those objective exceedances. I also make a note that 4 acute lethality samples were collected as per the ECA, and those are measured in a % mortality, and those are all 0. So that's a great result for that. Getting into the effluent monitoring section, I made a note that as well as the corrective actions taken, Aqua has began to jar test to optimize our coagulant dosage. And we've been taking additional samples throughout the process to try to combat and alleviate some of these objective exceedances. Into the operating section, you can see I did make an error, and I will be issuing a revision of this report. December 2021, our total suspended solids should have been listed as 15 milligrams as the limit and 17 milligrams per liter as the value. There's no way your total phosphorus could reach that, and I know that's probably concerning for some of you when you read that. I do make a note that our effluent flow meter was calibrated by Franklin Empire on February 2nd. That is required to be done annually. Moving into the maintenance summary, there was a lot of pump maintenance done this year. We had the outfall inspected by Dundee Marine, and we've replaced UV lamps to ensure our disinfection is, of course, meeting that ECA limit. The last part of the report focuses on sludge generation. You can see that 1,600 cubic meters was produced last year, which is higher than we've seen in the past. And we have talked about that that was in an attempt to improve our effluent quality and alleviate some of those objective exceedances. We did have 1 complaint in the system this year. There was a blockage on the customer's side. So we've investigated the flow above and beyond that to ensure that it wasn't a sewer main blockage. And the last thing that I've reported on is if there's any abnormal discharge events, and we did not experience any bypasses, overflows, or spills last year in the Barry's Bay sewage treatment system. The last part of the report is just appendices, and that is any kind of lab result for sludge that was sampled that is tabulated, and the flow meter calibration record. So at this time, if there's any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
Okay, any questions from, yes, Mayor Love?
Thank you, Chair. Kaylee, I noticed that the total suspended solids were way up in the raw sewage in October, but the effluent quality ECA limit exceedance occurred in in December. I'm just wondering, can that high total suspended solids in the raw sewage be used as a signal it's time to take measures to prevent a limit exceedance in the effluent quality?
Certainly. That is why we do lab work on the raw sewage in-house 3 times a week to adjust our coagulant and avoid effluent exceedances.
Okay, so it's like a canary in the coal mine. If you start to see what's coming in has a whole bunch of it, then obviously you've got to adjust to deal with it as it goes through the plant.
Absolutely.
Okay. The other question I had was on, okay, now it's page 39 of our package, but let me tell you, page 17 of the report, there's 2 listings for sewage pumping station number 1, pump number 1 replacement in that maintenance summary. Did it happen twice, or have we just got a copy paste situation?
In my report, I see that it was pump 2 and pump 1 that was replaced. So,
but there are 2 listings for pump number 1 on station 1.
Okay.
In the list. Just double check it.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I see that earlier in the top.
Yes.
I'll look into the details of that work order more closely. It could have been that there was a second issue that it had, we had a backup pump that went in. Ashley might actually know that answer.
No, it's a duplicate work order that's mentioned. It's the same
Okay.
one. It's just a cut and paste issue right now.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. Just wanted you to be able to take it out if it wasn't supposed to be there before these go in.
I
Thank
can
you.
certainly fix that in our revision as well.
Okay, I see Madam CEO has got her hand up.
Just more, a request to Kaylee, when you submit the revised report, can it state revised and the date of the revision? Because we'd like to post both as an addendum to the, so this one is on the agenda, and then we would post a revision as an addendum to this agenda.
Can do.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions from council? I don't see any. Madam CEO, we do have a recommendation. Could you read it out, please?
Yes, through the chair, that the Barry's Bay Wastewater System Annual Report for January 1st to December 31st, 2021 be approved as amended.
All right, I'll move it. I need a seconder. Mayor Love, seconds. All right, any other discussions? I don't see any. All in favor? Motion is carried. Okay, so 8.1.2 Barry's Bay Drinking Water System Annual Water Report 2021. Kaylee, are you taking care of this one too?
Yes, I will be.
Oh, okay.
Again, I'd like to ask everyone to please hold their questions until the end of the reviewing of the report. Your drinking water system report is issued to you from us as the operating authority to meet the conditions under OREG 170 of the Safe Drinking Water Act. It lists the provisions that need to be met and reported on under the large municipal facilities. So that is what is listed under these reports for Schedule 22 and Section 11, I believe, of that regulation. Under our compliance report card, we did have one ministry inspection last year. We got 100% on that rating, so that's excellent. We had an external audit for the drinking water quality management system. It was a reaccreditation year, and we did receive that reaccreditation as well, with no major or minor non-conformances identified. I get into a description of the facility. Of course, that it's taken from Lake Kaminiscag. It's a direct filtration plant. And I list what kind of chemicals were used last year, because there is the ability to use more than what is currently in production. So last year we used aluminum sulfate, soda ash, and chlorine gas to treat the raw water. I have a summary of non-compliance events. We did not see any adverse water quality incidents or any other non-legislative non-compliances for the water treatment system. Your flows experienced last year were under half the rated capacity, so that's excellent as well. Your raw flows are reported under a permit to take water. Last year was a renewal year. That's why there's two numbers listed. Your old permit to take water that expired in October and the new one that was issued. In the monthly flows, you will see two instances where the maximum allowable rate was either exceeded or it was met. These conditions were on pump startup and they lasted less than a minute, so they were non-reportable. Looking at your annual flow, comparable again across the last 5 years. So your water usage isn't exceeding what it typically does. I've reported the number of samples that were collected last year. Of course, we do that on a weekly basis for raw, untreated, and distribution. You'll notice that I've only reported 51 raw water samples because one sample result that we got back, the data was overgrown with target bacteria. So we weren't able to report an accurate E. coli or total coliform number. So I've excluded that sample result. I have operational testing data listed from your raw and treated turbidity, online turbidity from the filter, which is of course a required thing to be monitored by the ministry, as well as your free chlorine in your water treatment plant and the distribution system for primary and secondary disinfection. Your inorganic parameters listed below, sodium and fluoride are required to be tested every 5 years. Your nitrate and nitrates on a quarterly basis, and your metals on an annual basis. So I've listed the sample dates and the sample results. The maximum allowable concentration for these parameters were not met, or the half MAC was not met. It was a lead sampling last year. So we had taken that in February and September. I have the range of results listed, and the MAC wasn't reached for that either. Moving on to your organic parameters, these are tested on an annual basis. Again, I have the sample date and sample results listed, and the maximum allowable concentration for these were not met either. With your quarterly sampling that goes on for the nitrates and nitrites, we also test for trihalomethanes and haloacetic acids. These are disinfection byproducts, and you'll notice that the half maximum allowable concentration for the running annual average of last year was met for both THMs and HAAs. This is something Aqua will be monitoring closely and doing additional, research on, making sure that we can be treating your water the best that we can to avoid forming disinfection byproducts. And like I said, we will be monitoring this closely because it is a reportable result. In the major maintenance summary, I've listed what was done in the water treatment plant itself and in the distribution system. And you can see that we did have the water tower inspected last year by Dundee Marine. I've listed all the distribution maintenance that occurred as well, including 2 emergency water main repairs in February and November of last year. There was a new water main commissioned on Birchview Drive. 5 hydrants were repaired, and 7 curb stops and services were repaired. We've also included a summary of the 319 small drinking water systems that were sampled and taken care of within the township of Madawaska Valley. So 5 samples were collected, and E. coli and total coliform, were not found at either facility. In the appendix, I have a record of your permit to take water submission. The first one is under your old permit to take water with the water taking reporting website, and the new permit to take water is now using the regulatory self-reporting system. So that's why the water is reported twice. So I will open the floor to any questions now, and I'm more than happy to answer them.
All right, any questions from council? Madam Mayor?
Thank you, Chair. Kaylee, it's on page 5 of the report and page 53 of council's package. I'm just looking at the monthly rated flows and where there were the exceedances beyond the maximum allowable rate. You said it was caused by the low lift pumps. So can you maybe explain that better? And is this going to be a maintenance issue with those pumps? Like, are they surging with water when they come on? Or I don't understand how they could do that.
For sure. The spike in May, if I'm remembering correctly, it was for 6 seconds. So it's more than likely a blast of air that was maybe in the water, because of course water does hold air. So it's not like a pump was failing or a check valve was failing, allowing the pump to exceed that rate. It's more of a one-off of a small, quick, short spike.
Okay, so it's, and when we look at this and it goes over the line, you know, immediately as a layperson, you think, oh gosh, it's over the line, right?
Mhm.
But this is like one tiny point in time. This is not the average thing that happened over the whole month.
No, it was one
Okay.
instance for 6 seconds.
Yeah, okay. So we should not be concerned about it, other than if it ends up being a maintenance issue at some point with the pump.
Yep, and those flows are monitored by the operators on a daily basis, and myself monthly and quarterly. So if anything does look abnormal, we can report on that and we can address it and fix it.
Okay, thank you. I am glad you explained it, because again, as I said, as lay people, we look at it and go, oh my God, it's over the line.
Yeah.
6 seconds, I'm not going to worry about. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? I don't see any. Madam CAO, there's a recommendation. If you could read it out, please. Thank you.
Yes, through the chair, that the Barry's Bay Drinking Water System Annual Water Report for 2021 be accepted as presented.
Okay, I will move that. I need a seconder. Councillor Brumwich has seconded. Any further questions from council? Seeing none, all in favor? The motion has been carried. Okay, just give me a second here. On this report here, I guess it'd be Amanda that will be dealing with this. Is Amanda? I don't see Amanda yet. Okay, there you are. Okay, so maybe you can give us a rundown. I see that there was a problem identified that we need a some equipment in that, and it looks like we never got any funding from any kind of grants or whatever. So maybe Amanda, give us a little report on this. Thank you.
Sure. So during the 2022 draft municipal budget presentation within the general government capital program, there was a line identified as furnace HVAC hot water on demand dash grant application. That that program or that grant, that capital project was approved through the budget with an offset for revenue as a Trillium grant. We were notified, unfortunately, that we did not, or we were not successful with that Trillium grant. So the building condition assessment for the municipal office has identified the heating, ventilation, air being as in poor condition. The age of these units is approximately 30 years for the heating and cooling units and 60 years for the ductwork. And they did recommend within the reports that these HVAC services be replaced as soon as possible. So in order to continue with our facilities renewals, I am requesting that council allow us to continue with this capital project for 2022 with an offsetting revenue be a transfer from reserves from the 2019 Modernization Fund. As council, when we received it, council had earmarked those funds for upgrades or construction to the municipal office. And when we did do the application for the Trillium grant, the project was approximated at $60,000. So that is the request to this committee to draw $60,000 from the 2019 Modernization Fund to complete this capital project in 2022.
All right, thank you, Amanda. What I'd like to do here is I'd like to have the recommendation read here, and we've got a mover and a seconder, and then we can have some discussion or if there's any questions. So, Madam CEO, could you read out the recommendation?
Yes, through the chair, that council approves the proposed capital project within the general government capital program of the 2022 municipal budget identified as furnace HVAC hot water on demand grant application to proceed with funding drawing from the Deferred Revenue Modernization Fund in the amount of $60,000, leaving a balance in the fund of $200,832.77.
All right, I'd like a mover somewhere. Do I have a mover? Yes, Councillor Brumwich, and seconded by Councillor Poplinski. All right, and any question? I know I don't know if we really have any any input into this other than we have to do this because it was identified. But anyway, any councillor or anybody on council have any questions on this matter? I don't see any. Oh, Councillor Wilmer.
Just a comment. Just a comment. I think, as you said, Councillor Schules, we don't really have any choice. We have to do this, and it's something that is needed right away. And I think the treasurer has found a good way to fund it. So I think this is a good way to go. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion? I don't see any. All in favor? Motion has been carried. So thank you very much, Amanda, for the report. And also I want to say to Ashley and also to Kaylee for a great report. Thank you very much for keeping our water system safe and keep up the good work. Thank you very much. Back to you, Mayor Love.
Okay, thank you, Chair Schulist, and thank you, Ashley and Kaylee. Hope you have a great rest of the day. We are moving on to fire and protection and emergency management, and I'll turn it over to Chair Poplinski.
Thanks, Mayor Love. My question is, do we have the chief with us? I don't see him on screen, so.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
He just joined.
Good morning, Chief.
Morning, Chair Poplinski.
welcome. Maybe we could proceed with the municipal reports 9.1, pages 71. And your first page, page 71, there's a whole list of items. And I noticed a recommendation at the very top regarding 2 new firemen. I'm not sure whether the CAO would like to proceed with the recommendation first, as mentioned in the report, or leave it to the end of which we, I think, normally do.
It's entirely up to the chair. I think we can wait till he goes through his report and then I can read the resolution.
Great, thank you. So Chief, if you could enlighten us.
Okay, let's start off. Repairs and maintenance. The 2007 pumper truck has got its annual safety check completed. There's no issues with the truck. Welfare season started April 1st for 2022. Fire permits are available at the municipal office, at the CO Country Market and McEwen's gas station. They're $10 each, as they always have been, for 5 days. It's fires have to be started 2 hours before sunset, extinguished 2 hours after sunrise, which is provincial law. So far, we've had no issues. The one thing that will come next is a mandatory certification. I was notified on March 30th through the fire marshal's office through a Zoom meeting that the province has proceeded with mandatory certification for all fire departments with through the province starting April 4th, which was signed into law yesterday. We haven't seen actual documentation. We did see and get a review of what's going to change. The education, they have stepped back some of the regulations for that. That's the only thing that really did change. The rest of the regulations are in place. By May, I will give you a better update of the situation our fire department's in. We are in pretty good shape. We have always met the NFPA codes for training, but there will be, for the new firefighters, a little more stringent or for training and that. So, but we are in good shape. Just let the council know and the public know we are in good shape at the moment. It will impact us with cost, but I will have a better report, I would say more information as of for the May meeting. We haven't received the copy of the regulation, even though the fire marshal said it should have been to us by this morning by 10 o'clock. As of right now, we have not seen the actual regulation. When I do get it, I will pass it along to council to see. Then on March 9th, I sat in through an information session for Next Generation 911. This is presented by Bell Canada. This sort of tells us how the system's going to upgrade. Next Generation 911, once it gets up and running, will take not only phone calls, 911 calls. It'll be text 911, possible video 911 calls. It'll be more accurate for the pinpoint drop calls from cell phones. So that's what's coming. The one thing that the CEO will sometime early May, and possibly the head of council, will receive an information package that we have to sign a contract with Bell to continue our 911 systems when they do come. And during that, with that upgrade, they will show the costs that are going to be incurred by each municipality to keep 911 upgrade for their phone lines, is what they're saying. If you decide to go that way, it will not impact Renfrew County Dispatch or the CAC Center. There's 2 totally different things. CAC will be through the province. We get funded for that upgrade for their system, but it will not actually impact our dispatching as it stands. And then the new hires, there's a couple new hire firefighters for the South Hall. Both applicants have filled these positions are Chance Rakowski, David Velasic. Both are members of the Public Works. They're interested in firefighters. They both live in the Cumberland area. So they're good firefighters. They've also passed their vulnerable sector check because they're already municipal employees.
Okay, before I ask if there's anyone got any questions, maybe just a little clarification on the mandatory certification, Chief.
Sure.
You mentioned that there's some minor changes. In what respect are those? Is it financial or is it other requirements which we have to meet?
No, the requirement was before we had to have a hazmat full operations to do any kind of extrication whatsoever. They have pulled back on that regulation, saying just as long as you meet the NFPA code, do your heavy extrication. There's a thing out there is people think there's a heavy extrication, light extrication. Extrication is extrication, what the fire marshal told me. That's just sort of a term that's come up. I will explain it more clearly in May and break it down for you. But as for funding, the province hasn't given us 1 nickel. They said they have no reason to, they're not going to give us any money at this point in time. The fire marshal's fought for it. The Solicitor General hasn't said no. This is the way it's going to be. It's going to fall right in the backs of every municipality, and that's the big thing we're seeing. You're asking for this. We're not getting any money to be trained up to that level. You know, we are pretty good in that position, but they're putting putting more and more again on municipalities' backs. The taxpayer is, yeah, they're just not giving in for the funding whatsoever. We're still fighting for it. I have a Chiefs meeting, Eastern Chiefs meeting tomorrow, PAC 6 in Carroll Place. That's one of the main topics, is to try and fight for the funding to get our training, because it's going to be a big burden on taxpayers to keep everyone up to snuff.
Thank you, Chief. I'm just before we move on to the breakdown of calls and so on, I'd like to open it up so if any member has any questions or comments. Once again, I don't see, I only see Councillor Schulis. I don't see anybody else. So
Mayor Love has her hand up, Councillor Poplinski.
okay, please continue, Mayor Love.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Corwin, you say in your report they're going to explain the cost of the upgrade of the system, the 911 system. Did I hear you say they expect municipalities to pay for this upgrade?
Yeah, each municipality has to put, so there has to be invest a certain amount of money to keep on part of the 911 system for the upgrades, what the Bell said. So that's the first time I heard of it. I was shocked when I heard that part of it. The presentation, like,
I
implementing it.
I
The
haven't
first I ever
heard
heard.
anything about this.
Yeah,
So,
well,
I mean, I don't know what Bell Canada, who seems to be a fairly, I'll say a fairly large corporation, what their expectation that a municipality can pay to have their 911 system service upgraded. But yeah, this is probably something that all small rural municipalities are going to not be able to afford. So this is going to produce two levels of service for 911. It's going to be the 911 for those that can afford it. Usually densely populated urban areas would have more of a tax base. And then the lesser service for the rest of us who really don't have any money to spare for this particular expense. When we look at all of our other expenses, it's going to be problematic. Yet the very place we need 911 to work off of cell phones is in rural Ontario, when you're stuck at the side of a road, when you're, living, you actually have cell service, but you're still living very rurally. You would think that that would be something that should be funded by the company that, I don't know, that I pay my bill to. Me as a customer, I don't have a concern with funding this service, but as a taxpayer, I certainly have a concern with supporting Bell Canada being able to enhance their service in this way, right? So I'm going to bring this up just to see if anyone else has heard about it at my Roma board meeting on Friday, because I'm very curious to know if others have got the same message, that this is going to be a municipal responsibility to pay for the enhanced service. And we'll see what I get back, if anything.
Thank you, Mayor Love. Anyone else to hand up? I don't see anyone. Once again, you'll have to tell me, because I
don't see any hands up,
Okay.
Councillor Poplinski. Oh,
Thank
actually,
you.
the fire chief has just raised his hand.
Yes, Fire Chief.
Yes, Chair Poplinski. To you, Madam Mayor, just to clarify, we're not paying, the Bell's not asking us to pay for the whole infrastructure of it. It's just, there's going to be some kind of, they said there's going to be a flat fee to all municipalities. We're not exactly sure what. You're going to clarify in the package that you, as the chair, the head of council, will receive, and the CEO to review. I believe you're given 30 days to review it, and then the questions will come up on how you're going to respond to it. From what I understand, you're very vague when the questions come, because that did come up from other heads of council that were on that meeting. I seen it, especially in Northern Ontario, brought up that same concern as you did for the funding. They said, we have no extra money. So it seems to be, they're very vague on how they answer, just to give you kind of a sort of somewhat of clarification what we have understood.
Yeah, Fire Chief, what I was going to comment about is that I see in the report where you mentioned that if the municipality elected to wish to have the service, and I assume that in the report that you're waiting for right now, there will be an explanation as to what the additional service would entail. Would that be what you'd be expecting to see?
Yes, that's going to go to the head of council, the mayor, and to the CAO of each municipality. They should get, they said it's probably about a 100 to 150 page document that should explain everything in great detail, what they have prepared. It's supposed to be within the first 2 weeks of this month, so they should be emailed that shortly.
Okay, so is that something you could share with us? You know, if we have another meeting a month from now and it's something that we need to deal with in 5 weeks or 6 weeks from now. So whenever you, what I would suggest, whenever you get that information, to send it off through us, through the CAO, and make sure we have that information. Okay? Because
Will do.
we're, you know, we've already done our budget, and I know we have a reserve for certain things, but there seemed to be, especially recently with the training and so many other things, I'm just afraid that we're going to get caught short if we don't have enough time to prepare for these things. So anything that you can do in that regard would be appreciated. Anyone else?
Chair.
Yes.
Chair, could I just speak to that? It's the
Okay, I
mayor.
see you now. I see you now.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, I think where I'm, this worries me is that this is precedent setting. Right now, I know there's a charge on my phone bill for 911 service. So as a customer of Bell, I'm paying for that service. They don't come to municipalities and charge us for a service. This is precedent setting if we're going to just go along with this. Yeah, we're setting a precedent that I don't think we should be setting. So certainly if the package is coming to the mayor and the CAO, we will be immediately putting it on the next council agenda. I will also, as I said, bring it up with the Roma board on Friday and just ask if others are concerned about this same concept that Bell would be billing municipalities to pay in order for their municipality to have enhanced service. And I'd kind of like to know how Bell's going to figure out who's where exactly, because they have a terrible time figuring out that though I live in Combermere, they seem to think I live in Maynooth. They have a terrible time sorting out 911 issues that cross the Ottawa River. So I know in emergency services, they've certainly had some challenges with cell phones and 911. So it will be interesting to see just how this is going to roll out. If Killaloe, Haggerty, and Richards decides to pay for it, Madawaska Valley decides not to, South Algonquin isn't, but Hastings Highlands is. As to who will actually get the enhanced service and who will not, and how Bell's going to do that. But as I say, I will bring it up at the Roma board meeting on Friday and see if anyone else has heard had been to this presentation and has a similar concern. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Love. I think that's very, very worthwhile doing, and we'll hear back. My concern is that if we're not taking the enhanced service, could we be subjecting our taxpayers to an unnecessary risk? And because we don't know what that service is. So we'll wait for the report and hopefully, you know, it'll be able to be clear as to what we're actually paying for as well. So does anyone else on council have a question, or staff? Once again, I can't, other than Councillor Schulist, I don't see anybody. So
No, there are no council hands up.
Okay.
And before moving away from this report, I can read the resolution for the new firefighters.
just a brief comment and a question from the chief regarding the two new applicants. Could you just give us a little bit of background on that, chief? And also my question would be, do we have a full complement then when these two people are hired?
Yeah, we'll have full complement when the two new firefighters are hired. Two firefighters have left since the beginning of the year, but these will fill in those two positions at the moment, unless anybody else decides to retire. But right now, it doesn't look like that. The two firefighters have been hired by Public Works last October, so they both live in the Combermere area. So they're excellent guys. They're around 24/7. They both have homes in that area. They're from this area, so they may fit in perfectly. They know the township well. They know the roads well. So, and they come highly recommended from the Public Works supervisors and the fellow employees. So they seem to be really good fellows to hire.
Okay, any other comments from members of council?
There are no hands up, Councillor.
Thank you, Chief, for that explanation or clarification. I'm just wondering, Madam CAO, if you want to do the recommendation for the issues that we've discussed some as
Yes, through the
information.
chair. Yes, that council accepts the chief fire official's recommendation to hire Chancellor Kuski and David Vlasic as firefighters for the South Fire Hall.
Thank you. And Chief, if you could carry on with the
I would need
breakdown.
a mover and a
Oh, I'm
second,
sorry.
please.
Yes. So we can have a mover. I'll make the motion and somebody to second.
I
Any
see Councillor
comments?
Wilmer's hand is up.
Okay. I just happened to see Councillor Schulis there.
Oh, okay.
First, he's, as they say, he's the only one and the mayor that I can see on the screen. So
So I have Councillor Poplinski, Councillor Schulis.
Councillor Schulis, to any further comments or questions? Don't see anyone. So motion is granted. Thank you. So if we could.
Chair, could we please vote on that?
Oh, please do. Yes. Okay.
Everyone's hand is up, Councillor Poplinski.
Okay. Once again, it's trying times here. I can only, see what I can see. So thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
So Chief, if we could deal with the breakdown.
Okay, the fire call breakdown, we've had 16 calls so far this year. We had 9 in the month of March. So it's a lot, March picked up from like other years. It's on average to be an average year if that keeps going on that rate. Last 2021 was quite quiet, but we're on average for a normal year at this rate. So there's nothing really outstanding with that. No fire call, like no wildfires so far. So that's about it for the breakdown.
So is that the extent of the breakdown report?
That's pretty much the extent of the breakdown, Chair Poplinski.
Okay, I'm going to just ask if there's any questions or comments from members of council. Once again, don't see
I
any
do not
hands.
see any hands up, Councillor Poplinski.
Okay. So if we could move on then to accept as information and the breakdown report. And Chief, if you could proceed with the bylaw enforcement report.
All right. The compliance officer, since being hired, has issued 74 letters.
Excuse me a moment. I'm having difficulty hearing you, and I don't know if anyone else has. But if not, I'll try and adjust my set, but then my voice is too loud when I've been told before. So I'm just wondering if we try again.
Okay. Since the compliance officer was hired back last October, he has issued 74 letters for compliance. He has get probably about 50% of those have been response. With compliance, he's doing well, made quite a difference. He's caught up the backlog. We are continuing to still get complaints, but he's on top of doing an excellent job. People are complying now. They realize when they're broke the laws, compliance are the comprehensive zoning bylaw. So most people are doing it by mistake, not maliciously. So he's working out well. People are doing well. We're getting the complaints we need. People are coming along quite forward with a few more complaints every week. We get a couple bonkies or sea containers. We've only had one trailer complaint since January, but I'm sure that'll start up again. But at the moment, we're doing pretty good with that. Another problem is we're starting to get recently is shoreline work where township owns shore properties, shorelines along Kaministick Lake, Wadsworth Lake, Hvac Lake. We have 66-foot right away around the township. The township has access to it, can be sold, but we're getting a lot of people doing shoreline work when you buy properties without permission from the township. So we're trying to address that, educate people a little more that they don't own the property. They have to do a general inquiry or ask the township whether they own it or not and how to go about purchasing that. So that's one sort of new issue, but most people are pretty good when we do explain to them that they made a mistake and they are following through with us without any real issue. The next is the property standards bylaw updated. The property standards bylaw came into place in 2007. It hasn't been improved or updated since. We had one level of penalty, which is issuing a summons, part 3, take somebody to court for a $25,000 fine. The compliance officer and I have reviewed it. He has now put in penalties for he's putting in a penalty section for sea containers, bunkies, and trailers if required as a part 1 ticket. The penalties have been upgraded on for the other garbage bylaw. Unkept grass would be increased to fines for approval through council and then through the province, as they haven't been since they haven't been updated since 2007. So attaching the bylaw that's been updated with the definitions. The new sections have been highlighted, and the penalties are at the back for review by council before we send to the province for approval and council's approval.
Okay, do we have any questions on that portion of the chief's report? Once again,
Chair?
Yes, yes, Madam Mayor.
So
Yes,
I have a
Matt.
number of questions about the property standards bylaw update. I'm wondering if I
Please
could
continue.
just go through those. Okay.
Yes, please.
It's just going to take me a second. So I noticed that one of the things in it, okay, let's see if I can give everyone a page. On page 88, the property standards officer is created, but is also clearly identified as either the chief building official and or the bylaw enforcement officer. I'm wondering if we need to be, or if it would be wise to be a little more flexible, considering we now also have, at least on contract, a municipal compliance officer. So I'm not sure why this is restricted just to those two positions. I'm wondering if staff could give some thought to that, because it may work better that way to have more options. Chief, I noticed you wanted to respond.
Yes, Mayor Love, the compliance officer is also a bylaw officer, which gives him the authority to enter the property. That's why we didn't put the compliance officer. Just we ended up.
Okay.
We can change that though if you do feel more comfortable with that. That's easy to do.
Mayor Love or count through the chair, if I may just add,
Yes,
just for clarity and as well for consistency, we can add and or designate. We've been trying to do that throughout all of the bylaws. So I would suggest wherever the positions are listed that we can add and or designate.
I think that would address it nicely, because there may be times as we move forward as a municipality when there is a designate that you wish to designate to handle property standards. The bylaw office enforcement officer yourself may be busy enough with certain other issues. So that flexibility would be great if we could add that. The other thing that I found puzzling was on page 90, the Property Standards Committee. I've been mayor 7.5 years now, never appointed a Property Standards Committee. I know it says it should be council, but it's not identified in the bylaw that strikes the standing committees and any of the additional committees. But where it gets puzzling to me is it goes on and talks about an appeal. And if an appeal is made to the Property Standards Committee and it fails, then the property owner has the option to appeal to an Ontario court judge. If it succeeds, then the municipality has the right to appeal the committee decision to the judge as well. I'd be very curious to find out if all of council is the Property Standards Committee, who actually authorizes a municipal appeal of a decision of the Property Standards Committee? Like, I'm not sure why this committee is all of council in the first place. Should it maybe not have other members of the public on it, or some diversity in this committee rather than being council? Because if there's an issue and a decision of the Property Standards Committee, the municipality can appeal it, but it's very strange that a council would appeal a decision made by a committee made up of council and only council. So I just found this a really odd situation, worthy of giving some thought to whether or not it does make sense that it's just announced that it's council. The other thing was, why would the chairperson not be appointed in the standing committee bylaw? Why would they be electing a chairperson? An appointment can be made. It certainly doesn't have to be the mayor if council settles on the Property Standards Committee being all of council. That appointment could be made in the standing committee bylaw. And then the final thing that was weird was we had to make provisions for a secretary of the committee. Does the committee secretary need to be a committee member, or can a staff person be appointed? Again, having never had one of these committees officially appointed, I just found all of this unusual. And thinking forward to the fact that we do have a number of non-compliances in terms of trailers, in terms of bunkies, if any of this ended up coming to Property Standards Committee, how are we going to address it? So I'd just like a little more thought be given to how this works and how the municipality would appeal a decision of a committee composed of council. Did anyone else find
Hello?
this a bit confusing?
But no, Mayor Love, I think you've highlighted exactly my concerns. And I'm sure others, when reading this, you know, this looks like something that's come from a city someplace where they would have a specific need to have a further committee, but we'll have another committee inside of a committee, which inside of the council. I just think it's being overdone, frankly. I think this is well intended, but I think it would be a bit of a nightmare. And why create another impedance in this whole process? So I would not be in favor of that moving forward, but I'd certainly like to hear other members of council.
If I may make a suggestion through the chair, it's
I don't
Sue.
see any other hands, so please continue, Madam CAO.
I'd like to suggest just that council gives direction for us to proceed with the continued review of the property standards bylaw draft, and that we get clarification on those statements as it pertains to the property standards committee. We have been researching different types of bylaws, and possibly it almost sounds like some components of this came from a municipality that has administrative monetary penalties, where their structure is a committee with a review board intended to accept challenges to fines. So we can go over that. I think for the sake of this report, it was an action item that was brought forward, and we want to ensure that council supports the revision of the property standards bylaw, the biggest inclusion being one of the biggest issues that bylaw has, which is how to deal with and to properly address the bunkies, the trailer bylaws, the trailers and tent and trailer, the definitions that they've added, including what is a recreational vehicle, sea container, storage. So if I may suggest, if we could have a recommendation that the bylaw activities report is accepted as information, and that staff is directed to bring the property standards bylaw draft as amended back to council. That would give us the opportunity to move forward and for council to review.
Thank you, Madam CAO. And if there's no other comments from council in that regard, yes, Mayor Love, I think I see your hand. Saw your finger. I saw your finger there. So.
Absolutely. So, you know, I guess this is the first opportunity I've had to sit down and read this bylaw, and this seems to be part of the bylaw, and it posed for me a lot of questions about this committee and this structure. And as we are seeking compliance with bunkies and trailers and sleep cabins, under this bylaw, they could be challenged and want to come to this committee. So I just want to, before we redo this, I want to make certain we're very clear on what it means if someone challenges the ticket or the fine that they get. The other thing that I was wondering about, and I didn't get to this, and I'm sorry, is on page 95, where we have the fines. The fines appear to be, are they one-time fines? I'm just wondering if there's a one-time fine for this, is it not going to limit compliance? Because quite frankly, if I look at this and I see that my fine for having a travel trailer or camper trailer on my property is $500, I pay my $500. I can have the travel trailer there indefinitely. So how do the fines work? Are they a fine per each time that the trailer hasn't been moved, or like how is this going to work? If they're one-time fines, they're going to in effect be a fee to do something that's not allowed. If they are recurring fines in some way, be they annually or I don't know, some recurring way or increase, well, maybe not increasing, but recurring, then they do become more of a deterrent. Do you understand where I'm coming from on that, Corwin?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I can explain that. Right now, we have one way of charging somebody, and that's a partly summons going to court, is a $25,000 fine, which is extreme. So how we start right now is we go out and give the warning, we explain the violation, we give them so many days to comply. We have no stepping stone. So issuing a provincial offense ticket is a part one, would allow us that $500 fine for the first time. They don't comply after 30 days. If we get them another 20 days after that, we can charge them another $500. If they want a chance, they can go to court. That way we can have some to go from no fine whatsoever to $25,000 is the extreme. So we're trying to find that middle ground to say, we'll give you so many days to comply. If you don't comply that 30 days or answers, you will issue a ticket. It's provincial offense. If you could get a second ticket or a third ticket. That way, if we do ever end up going to court under a part 3 summons, we could show it to the courts. We did try and work with them. Here's our stepping stone, like stepped up. We didn't go to the maximum. So it gives us some kind of some kind of working ground, stepping up as we went, showing some kind of progress, and also we're not trying to be as hard-handed or heavy-handed with it. So that's the reason behind the provincial offenses tickets.
Okay, so what you're explaining to me is this fine doesn't necessarily just happen once.
That's correct.
You, after a certain specific time period, you may issue this fine again if there's still no compliance.
Correct.
And you're headed towards court in that process. Okay, that explains it, because if you think about it as just once, in effect, it becomes a fee to do what's not allowed, because the person will pay the fine and that's it. So thank you for explaining that. We may want some explanation that identifies that in this, so that members of the public are very aware that this is not just going to happen to you once. It's a set fine, but it could if there's no compliance, it could recur after a specific period of time. So I think that's important to identify to the public, because that then encourages compliance. And thank you for that explanation.
I thank you, Mayor Love, and I think it's a good document. I think it's one that needs a bit of fine tuning, and I did read through all of it and marked some issues where I was concerned. One of them was dealing with the definitions, and if you look at page 84, third item from the bottom, 2.22, they're talking about the sea container definition, and it shall mean a large usable steel box in various sizes and used for storage, and may have been used to transport freight on a ship or used on a railway. What I would suggest is the word may be taken out and just say and included those that have been used in, because it sounds like it has to be used for storage and may be used for other purposes. So that's a word which I find very cumbersome, and it creates many different scenarios, and it doesn't explicitly define what we're talking about. I find that would be one that I would ask the CIO to circle and check that, because it doesn't make sense to me.
So noted.
Thank you. Is there any other comments from council? Once again, I don't see any hands, so I'm assuming there's not.
Can I get a resolution to proceed if I read back the recommendation, Councillor Poplinski?
Okay, please do.
That staff is directed to make further revisions to the property standards bylaw as discussed and bring it back to council with revisions as proposed.
Can I have a mover? Councillor Schulist. I only see two, and I see Mayor Love. So it's second by Mayor Love. Any further comments? All in favor? Motion is granted. Make sure we've got everything. We've got 9.1.3, say draft request for tender, remove shingle South Hall and the Tanker Bay roof. If we can, Corey, is that something, or are we dealing?
Well, Chair Paplinski, yes, I've prepared a tender for the replacement of the Tanker Bay and South Fire Hall. So I'm just looking for council to approve it. It's been a budgetary item. So it's in pretty bad shape. So hoping to get it done as early as you can at the beginning of the season so it doesn't cause any water damage. It hasn't yet, but the shingles are in quite awful shape. We've left off for a couple of years. So I spoke to Hillary. He's helped me with the tender. So I'm just looking for council's approval to go ahead and post a tender to the public to get quotes for hopefully near the end of the month and get started early in the spring.
Okay, any comments or questions from members of council? Once again, don't see
Chair?
any hand.
Chair?
Okay, see ya. No.
Okay. Yes, just two little points, I think, because this tender is based on another tender that was previously done, and that's good. That's a good thing because you want to make sure that you're not doing all the work over again if you can use something. However, if you'd look on page 106 of the package, and I'm just trying to see if there's a page number on this document, but I'm not sure. It says A-1. The described as, it says railway station shingle replacement. If we could just change that to fire hall.
Will do.
And then there's one more, page 114. Go to 114. Page 114 of the agenda package says special provisions. All work must only occur between September 10th and October 31st. No work can occur on Fridays due to the farmers market. As I was reading that, I went, oh, okay, this is the railway station. So just maybe look at the special provisions, and if that's not needed, because I think you actually want this done sooner rather than later, just remove that.
I will do that. Thank you for
Okay,
catching that.
those are just two leftovers from, as I said,
Yep.
from working smart and not reinventing the wheel. So thank you for that.
I will fix that.
Okay.
If I may, through the chair, I wanted to add to that I did modify the resolution to direct staff to proceed with the tendering process to remove and shingle the South Hall Tanker Bay roof. We just wanted to make sure I talked briefly with Hillary this morning, and we had changed a bit of the format to our tendering process. We've added a bit of legalities to it. And so we'll just make sure we take what Corwin and Hillary will work together to standardize the tender so it reflects some of the process changes we've done.
Thank you, Madam CEO. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Mayor Love, moving, and second by Councillor Schulist. My apologies to the other members of council. I don't see on screen, so I don't know whether your hand is up. So any further comments or questions on that motion? Don't see any. Motion is granted.
Councillor Paplinski, Mayor Love has her hand up. And I think
Okay.
they're just voting on the motion.
So could we vote?
Yeah, so all in favor?
All hands are up.
Okay, thank you. Motion is granted. Just bear with me a second here. We have 9.2 correspondence and information. I don't see anything on the agenda. And once again, 9.3 unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business with this particular committee? Don't see any hands. So I'll hand the gavel back to the mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair Paplinski. Chair Wilmer, there's a fairly significant amount of work in your committee. I'm wondering, would you prefer that we take a lunch break a little early and then proceed through the work, or do you want to take lunch after you've proceeded through your committee? I'm leaving it to you.
I would just want to know how it will adjust Hannah's schedule. Are you available if we take a little lunch break and come
That's
back?
totally fine. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
happy to do that.
Okay.
All right, well, I think I would prefer the lunch break early, and we'll do a short one and come back and go through.
Okay, so council, I'm going to suggest a half an hour for lunch. We do have to allow staff some time to actually eat, and they usually are still working. So if I could get a mover and a seconder to take a lunch break until 12:10. Moved by Councillor Wilmer, seconded by Councillor Schulist. All those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, we will break until 12:10 and come back and